In this slide, you can see the differences between the EGC and the GEC. The GEC is the grounded electrode conductor. And then down here we have the grounding electrodes. So basically the ground rods or the UFER are the grounding electrodes. The wire that runs from them that goes over to the panel is the grounding electrode conductor. And then over here we have the equipment grounding conductor. Down here you can see the equipment grounding bus bar. So basically every wire that comes off of this that feeds a circuit is an equipment grounding conductor, and there's only should be one grounding electrode conductor for each system. In this slide I wanted to go over line side taps, bonding or not bonding. It kind of depends on where you are in the United States. So if you're a traveling crew, it's really important to pay attention to the plan set because we have 3 different options that we use across the US. In this scenario, you can see that right here it tells us to bond the grounds and neutrals. This little black bar, whenever it goes over the checkered line, which is the ground, and the next line up, which is the neutral, that means that we're supposed to bond the grounds and neutrals. In this scenario, you can see that the ground does not run through the conduit. We are supposed to run a number 6 copper grounding electrode conductor outside and then irreversibly crimp it right here. In this scenario, you can see, once again, it's a line side tap. The grounds and neutrals are bonded because of that black bar. The difference in this one is the ground goes through the conduit and is still hooked to the ground bar. In some areas, this is how they want to see it. And then finally, the third option is, once again, you can see the black bar, but in this scenario, it only goes over the checkered line, not over the straight neutral line. So this one, we are not bonding the grounds and neutrals, and the ground wire runs inside the conduit with the others. In this slide, I want to go over how to wire up a bonded line side tap disconnect. In the image, you can see the wire coming from the taps. This wire is required to be a minimum of number 6. It may need to be larger based on the size of the system, but in no case is it allowed to be smaller than number 6. Then we have some 40 amp fuses. The wire coming off of the fuses is based on the size of the fuses. So in this scenario, I ran number 8 wire. This wire feeds the combiner panel or the inverter, depending on the type of system you have. Next, we have a number 6 neutral wire coming from the taps. This wire is supposed to go directly to the ground and neutral bar. And then we have a number 8 neutral conductor coming off feeding the equipment. Then we have the grounding electrode conductor. This wire is required to be a minimum of number 6. In some scenarios, it might run back through the conduit, and in other scenarios, it's run surface mount. When it's ran surface mount, it needs to go down and connect to the existing grounding electrode conductor where it's irreversibly crimped. If you cannot find the existing grounding electrode conductor, you can install 2 new ground rods. Next, we have the bonding screw. The green bonding screw is there to connect the ground and neutral bar to the metal of the can. Then we have the equipment grounding conductor. The equipment grounding conductor is the ground that feeds the equipment, just like it sounds. And then we have the equipment grounding lug. If you'll notice, the equipment grounding lug is not connected to the ground and neutral bar. We are allowed to use the metal of the can to accomplish grounding. So once you install that green grounding and bonding screw, now the equipment ground lug is also grounded, and now the equipment will be grounded. Thanks for watching. In this slide, I want to review how to wire up an unbonded line side tap disconnect or a load side tap disconnect. In the image, you can see the wire coming from the taps. This wire is required to be a minimum of number 6 for line side taps. For load side taps, it's allowed to be smaller, but I still recommend we install number 6 just to make it easier to pass the inspection so we don't confuse the inspectors. Next, we have 40 amp fuses. The wire coming off of the fuses is based on the size of the fuses. So I installed number 8 wire coming off of the 40 amp fuses. This wire feeds to the combiner panel or the inverter depending on your solar system type. Next we have a number 6 neutral conductor coming from the taps. This wire comes and connects directly to the neutral bar. Then we have a number 8 wire coming off of the neutral bar. This wire runs and feeds the equipment. Next, you'll notice there is not a grounding electrode conductor system connected to this disconnect. That's because we use the equipment ground for this. The equipment grounding conductor does just what it says. It feeds the equipment. You'll notice it comes from the equipment and it lands on the equipment grounding lug. Then it goes back through the conduit back to the original panel where it lands on the equipment grounding lug in the original panel. The biggest difference between a bonded panel and an unbonded panel is the ground screw. Once this green grounding and bonding screw is removed or installed, that's what determines if the grounds and neutrals are connected together. Since this is an unbonded panel or a load side tap panel, we are not allowed to install the green bonding screw because we're supposed to have the grounds and neutrals separate from each other. Thank you. In this slide, I want to talk about irreversibly crimping the GEC on line side taps. In the diagram below, you can see the grounding electrode conductor, the GEC, runs from the ground and neutral bar in the MSP down to the ground rod. You can also see that the solar disconnect has a number 6 GEC running out of it that has an irreversibly crimp connecting it to the original GEC. You should always try to connect the solar disconnect GEC to the original structure's GEC. If there's only one ground rod connected to the grounding system, you'll have to add another one. To do that, you must crimp a number 6 bare copper wire onto the original GEC near the first ground rod and run it over at least 6 feet and install a second ground rod. In this picture, you can see we have the MSP here and the solar disconnect here. The original grounding electrode conductor runs down here and runs to the first ground rod. We have a second ground rod over here that you can't see, but it wasn't there originally. So in order to connect it, we irreversibly crimped onto this first ground rod or first grounding electrode conductor right near the ground rod and ran the number 6 wire over to the second ground rod and installed it. And then on the solar disconnect, we brought down this GEC and ran it over and connected it right onto the original GEC with another irreversible crimp. This is how it should be done. You should try to avoid pounding new ground rods unless that's the only option you have. Next, I'd like to go over the grounding electrode conductor, how to protect it and secure it. The code says we can run a number 6 or larger wire across the surface of the building without the need for a conduit, unless you are installing it in an area that is exposed to physical damage. Typically, physical damage means that it's installed in a location where a car could run into it, like you would see at the end of a driveway. So in that scenario, if you were installing it at the end of a driveway, you would have to install it in some type of conduit, preferably PVC, so that you don't have to bond it on both ends like we learned in the last slide. The code book doesn't give us a lot of direction when it comes to securing / strapping the wire. All it says is that it needs to be securely fastened to the surface. Based on that, I would recommend strapping it about every 20 to 24 inches or as necessary to hold it tight against the wall so that it looks good.